Pedro from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with Nikita Kamprad to talk about the latest record, Noktvrn, but I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the band, but I'm going to ask you, what's the right pronunciation? Teach this Canadian guy some German.
It's Der Weg einer Freiheit.
Oh, it's not that hard. Okay.
No.
It's exactly what you just said. You sounded phenomenal. You sounded amazing.
Yeah, some people pronounce the word Freiheit like Freiheit because, you know, it's an E and an I, and so it's a German thing to say I instead of A.
Okay, all
That's
right.
a tricky thing.
I need to improve my German skills, that's for sure. Starting off with this record, where is your starting point for an album like this? Like, where do you draw your inspiration for such a record?
It's always a very difficult question to answer because basically there's not a master plan or some high goal I have in mind when I start writing an album or writing songs in general. It's just the urge after releasing an album. The urge starts to get more active again after a couple of months or half a year to just be creative again and to just write new songs. And where the journey goes, I don't know at the beginning. Like I didn't write this album in particular, for example, based on this night theme. I didn't have this in mind right in the beginning. It just I wrote the first songs and it came naturally. And at some point, like after 3 or 4 songs I finished, I had the impression that, well, okay, this is a night album, so to say.
Do you take its own path with its own record? Does each album allow you to be creative in a different way? Or once you get into the motion of putting these songs together, you start to see that, you know, I'm kind of falling into the same patterns of the past?
Of course, my ambition is not to sound exactly the same on each album, and I think you can always hear some kind of development over the releases. On the new album, more than ever before, I guess. But yeah, mostly it just goes natural. There's not a real plan behind it, and I finished the first couple of songs, and then I have the impression already where on the album these finished songs have their places, and then I try to fill the space in between, or write the intro of the album or the outro if there's not already an outro song or something like that. So it begins with tiny pieces, and then I try to fill in the spaces in between. It's like a puzzle game.
When I was listening to this album, the direction that you go on this record almost feels like there's no boundaries. Like whatever your creativity took you, that's exactly the path that you went down. Is there ever a moment when you're creating a record, when you're in the process of making an album, and something comes up and you're like, wow, that sounds perhaps cool, but that's a little bit even too far out there for me? Does that ever happen, or you don't like to set any boundaries whatsoever?
Yeah, I must say that happened in the past. I wrote some songs and I thought like, well, I like this song, but I don't think people will like it, and it couldn't make its place on a new record, the Weg einer Freiheit record at least. So these songs are basically just remaining on my hard drive and rotting there. But with this new album, really, I really tried to make myself free of these thoughts. I thought like, well, now I want to write this certain song, which, for example, Immortal or Haven, which are the most two of the special songs on the album. If I would have if I wrote these songs 5 years ago, I wouldn't have released them, I guess. But right now I have I want to take more risk somehow to release even more surprising stuff, because in the end with Finisterre, especially with the last album, I had the impression that I didn't take too much risk in the music. I was rather like, oh, let's keep it rather traditional and solid, and that's okay. I am feeling good with this. But after releasing Finisterre, I thought like, well, it's a solid album, and so and people like it. But for me, it's like nothing too special about it, and I could have even do more. And I tried to do this kind of different on the new album.
So those songs that you have in your hard drive rotting away, will they ever see the light of day now that you have a different approach, a different mindset?
Maybe, yeah, maybe not in their state like they are, but maybe I will get them out and rework on them, like leaving the initial idea as it is, but doing some more parts or instrumentation and stuff like it might be. And there's also yeah, one song in particular. It should always be a very long song. At some point I had the idea to just do an album with one song, one really large song. And this song I never finished, but it's still there and it's still in my head. And I want to work on it next year, probably.
Maybe an EP, even if you don't go the length of an album, an EP with one track. I think if there's anybody out there with a creative mindset to put something like that together, it's you. Because I felt like I was inside, when I was listening to this album, I felt like I was inside of your mind. And it's a scary place to be in because you're going in a lot of different directions. And the sound and the experience that I'm getting was very different from song to song. But at the same time, it all felt part of one single record. So how do you balance that ability of creating the diversity, but at the same time keeping everything grounded as being part of a much larger puzzle?
That's really nice to hear. It's a compliment. Thank you. I think still, although we recorded the album as a whole band and live in one room, with just 2 weeks of tracking all the songs, all as a band, still the main songwriting is all in my hands. Like I'm alone. I'm sitting here in this room basically, and writing and demoing the songs. So this might be the reason why the songs still sound like one person, basically, even though all the band recorded them and contributed their parts of, yeah, each band member has a certain character and a different way to play the guitar, for example, and interpret different drum beats or something like that. But still, the basic song is written by me solely, and yeah, basically that, I think that holds the album together and lets it sound like a homogeneous album in a way.
You mentioned the band recording all together in the studio. Did you want to bring a little bit of the live experience that you get when you're playing into the sound of the record? Is that the reason why you approach it this way?
Yes, definitely. We released our live album in 2019, and at the point we recorded it, it was 2017. The others even didn't know I pressed record, so it was a big surprise actually, and no one of us really imagined to do a live album, and it wasn't planned. But after I checked the individual tracks and mixed them, I found out that it sounds pretty good, and it has some kind of different energy to the in comparison to the previous studio recordings, which I basically all did by myself and with our drummer, but he's only playing the drums and then leaves the studio. And I spent the next 3 or 4 weeks recording everything else and mixing. So it was a very exhausting and yeah, a process where all the responsibility lying just on my own shoulders. And I had the impression that I need to change that. And with a live album, this really was the most important reason why we decided to record the new album also in a live environment with the whole band, because we knew that there's it can only benefit from it. There's so much more if you record an album with the whole band, with everyone live in the room, because these different energies you have flowing between, they're not visible, but they're in the music. There's something special, and we always wanted to do that, and that was the album. It's very, this way, Noktvrn is a very important album for the band.
With everything being inside of your brain, and the moment you start to take it from your brain and bringing it into life, is there one element on this record that proved itself to be a little bit more difficult to convert from the vision that you had into the actual result?
Tricky question. Well, first of all, my bandmates are always, and I really appreciate it, very supportive. Well, if I come up with a new song, actually they never say anything bad about it. Maybe because it's not bad, but maybe also because they respect my creative thing. And I really appreciate this, and it's a great way of working together. So I can't really remember a certain like difficulty when performing and recording the new songs with the band. And you know, I did all the demo recordings and tabs for guitar and bass tabs for the new songs, and I sent it to them, and they were like, "Yeah, that's great. Let's learn it. Let's meet for a studio rehearsal before the actual studio recordings, and try out how the songs work in a band context." And it turned out that they worked perfectly. And we, of course, we changed small things like cymbal hits or a part here and there, but they were just very, yeah, supportive in a way, and that's great.
With the sound on the record being so powerful, where do the lyrics come in? What role do the lyrics play for you in the overall creation of an album like this?
For me, ever since, and also as when I'm listening to other music, music is always more important than the lyrics, actually. And especially in metal, you know, you put on a metal song with screams and you usually don't understand the word at the first place. You always have to read the lyrics. So for me, it was always like the lyrics are rather an element that you can read along with the song, but it's not necessary for the song to work how it should be. So without the lyrics, if I finish writing a song and I add the lyrics, it's rather like the putting the cherry on the top, and supporting the musical mood and atmosphere with the lyrics on top.
And how do you work the vocals in? Does that process become a little bit more organic in terms of how the music makes you feel, and then what the lyrical content is, and then the vocals kind of fall in between? Is that how it works?
I think, especially in metal with harsh vocals, screaming vocals, the vocals can be seen as also as a rhythmical element, like you know, having a screaming vocal and a distorted guitar. These two elements aren't that that far away from each other. It's both distorted, compressed, and angry. It's different with clean vocals, of course, but for me, harsh vocals are rather a rhythmical element, and you can use it a lot to bring in dynamics in the music, and of course, also emotions. You know, our vocals or screaming vocals are not just one sausage,
Yeah,
and
one
that's it.
one.
Yeah, you can do many things with scream vocals. But as I said, for me, it's rather to bring in different rhythms as well with the vocals, and yeah, different kind of energies, emotions. that are, of course, connected to the lyrics itself, because lyrics can be uplifting, they can be depressive, and you can all kind of transport this in the performance of the lyrics.
When you look at the music that you created on this record, when you look at the lyrical content and the vocal approach that was taken, how much of all of these parts represent who you are as an individual?
The lyrics are really very personal. They have been very personal ever since, and they are like reflecting my thoughts on how I see the world today, and how I feel. Basically, they are really introvertive. Can you say that? And I always find it kind of surprising that many people can connect to them so much, because obviously they're different people, they're not me. And the lyrics are totally me. If I read them, I see myself in them. And I also, if I read the lyrics I wrote 12 years ago, I feel like, oh, that's me 12 years ago. And that's always kind of strange, sometimes even scary, if people say, well, I feel the same way. But it shows that many people, or people generally, think about same issues or same problems. I mostly address some kind of problems in my lyrics I have with myself, with the world, with others, because that's the way I try to solve these problems. Sometimes it's a kind of therapy even for me, writing lyrics, because I get to know myself better.
I have one last question for you, and that is, I felt like listening to this album, it really puts forward a lot of complexity in the way it's coming together, all of these different elements, the lyrics, the vocals, the sound, the atmosphere that it creates. Are you a perfectionist? And is this complexity that we see in the sound that you create part of that ability that you have to try to create something that's absolutely perfect?
There's no perfect in music. There's no perfect anywhere. But yes, I would say I'm definitely trying to do the best I can. And yeah, recording an album live, you can definitely say it won't get perfect, because you can't play every person in the room playing perfectly at the same time. It's impossible. And but of course, we always try to do the best we can. And when writing a song, yeah, I'm spending a lot of time writing the details, and also when I'm doing the mix for the Weg einer Freiheit, but also for other bands, because I work as a music producer as well, I always pay attention a lot to the details in the music, because they are responsible for the full image. And these are very, very important. And you can say that I'm trying to be perfect, but it's not possible.
You're an imperfect perfectionist. Maybe that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. If you want.
Well, Nikita, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the release on November 19th on Season of Mist. And thank you once again for taking the time.
My pleasure. It was a great time talking to you.
Same to you. Take care. All the best.
You too. Thank you.